From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Because the critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading between households. That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes.
So we're in the middle of a coronavirus lockdown here in the UK at the moment, and as soon as I can't get out and do the normal landscape photography that I would be doing, it seems like the perfect excuse to get the macro lens out and just see what I can photograph here in my own garden. So this little bed of flowers here, these purple flowers and blue flowers, are actually proving to be quite productive. The flowers themselves actually make some really nice images, especially if you can blur out the background by dropping the f-stop a little bit. Yeah, it's working really nicely, but also whilst I'm photographing them, I'm getting the odd bee or the odd... we've got lots of moths in this garden. They're called mint moths, and they're really quite beautiful little moths. Tiny little things, but absolutely stunning with wonderful colours. And they keep coming and landing on these flowers, so I'm basically just waiting for things to come along, land, and then I'll try and take a photograph of them. You might have noticed I've got this big contraption here on the end of the lens. This is actually a diffuser, and the reason I'm using that is when you've got a flash mounted on top of the camera, what you find is the lens actually casts a shadow if you're photographing something close to the front of the lens. So that's why I'm using this diffuser, is just to prevent that shadow. But also it softens the light, so if you're taking photographs of insects, rather than getting reflections of the flashlight bouncing back off the shiny parts of the insect, the diffuser really softens the light and gives a much nicer quality. Having the flash on top of a camera can be quite problematic when you're doing macro, which is why a lot of people use ring flashes, or they use flashes mounted out to the sides so that you don't get the shadow of the lens. But actually one of these diffusers, this is just a piece of plastic with some paper glued to it. Really cheap solution, and it really solves the issue, and actually I think it works a lot better than a ring flash. Looks a bit silly, but it does the job. So the other area of my little garden here, which is proving to be quite productive, is this sort of area of these green plants with white flowers. I don't actually know what they are. We've only just moved in here, so I'm not that familiar with the garden yet, but I think they're probably weeds actually. But they do seem to be popular with the insects, and I was taking a photo of the spider, but actually as I was here, this dragonfly came in, so I managed to get some shots of a dragonfly, which is actually the first dragonfly I've seen in this garden over the last couple of weeks, so I'm really pleased I had the camera with me when it came in. I had to be quite quick, so I don't know how well the photos came out, but I think I probably got some quite good ones. What I really like with dragonfly shots, those face-on shots we have the two eyes. There's also quite a few spiders in here, and a ladybird as well, so I'm just going to have a little bit of a play around and yeah, see what shots I can get. So I've just come down here out the front of the house, and the garden out here is actually really nice. It's a bit shadowy this morning, so probably in the afternoon it might be a little bit better for photography. But I've got this dandelion here, and dandelions are fantastic subjects for macro photography. And this one I particularly like because it's got a little shield bug on top of it, and that shield bug is just sat there in some of the seeds from the dandelion. And it's making for a really nice image actually. I really like this shot, especially with, so what I've been playing with is just dropping that f-stop down a little bit, so it's widening the aperture, and whilst that has the problem in that it's really decreases your depth of field, so you have to be quite careful about that. What it does do is give a really nice out of focus bokeh background. So I'm just having a play around. I'll have a look at the images after I've taken them, just see which ones work better. The other thing I should mention is how to focus. So I'm actually using a combination. Sometimes I'm using the autofocus. If I've got flying subjects which are flying around, because this is a 100mm lens, I don't actually mind using the autofocus and trying to focus on those insects as they're flying about to see if I can get them in focus. But occasionally I switch it into manual focus, because if I'm working quite close up to the lens, what I find is a manual focus allows you to actually move the camera, and by moving the camera you can get it into focus properly. It's quite difficult to get it right, and you have to take a few shots and have a few attempts at it, but sometimes it really pays off. And really a combination of those two techniques seems to be working best. It's just, I guess, depending on the subject, you've just got to find the method which works best for you. It's been really great to get out this morning and just have a little bit of a practice in the garden with the macro lens. I think at the moment, as we're all in lockdown at the moment, and I know a lot of us are actually turning to macro photography because we can't get out and do the normal photography that we would normally be doing. And I highly recommend that you give it a go if you can. Today I was using the Sigma 105mm macro lens. This is our first sort of dedicated macro lens that we've bought, but you don't need a dedicated macro lens to do macro photography. In fact, quite a while ago, Hannah and I did a video of using extension tubes to convert our normal landscape lens into a macro lens. So if you're thinking of getting into macro photography and you're not sure whether or not you can quite justify buying a dedicated macro lens, I'd recommend checking that video out and maybe giving extension tubes a go. And it doesn't have to be expensive, so extension tubes, they don't cost very much money. And then in terms of flash, you know, a lot of people think you have to go out and spend money on a ring flash or a fancy setup. This is just a £25, I think it's about £25 Neewer flash. I'll pop a link in the description below. Very inexpensive manual flash, and it does the job absolutely fine, as long as you combine it with something like this. And as I said, this is just homemade. It's a piece of paper attached to some plastic. I actually learnt how to make this from another YouTube video by a guy called Another Perspective, so I'll pop a link below as well for that, so definitely go and check out his video. But we've actually been meaning to do a lot more macro photography on this channel anyway. It's been quite a while since our last macro video, but when we bought this lens we thought, we'd really love to do more macro content. So this current lockdown situation has been the ideal sort of catalyst to get me out in the garden and do some macros. So please let me know what you think of the images below. Let me know if you're interested in seeing some more macro videos on this channel, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more. It's probably a good opportunity now whilst we can't get out and do landscape photography. So yeah, anyway, if you did enjoy this video, then please do feel free to give it a thumbs up, and wherever you are at the moment, we just hope that you're keeping safe. Stay safe, stay indoors, or at least stay at home. Get into the garden if you can, but yeah, we just want to send our best wishes to all of you. So take care, and we'll see you next time.